Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to INACSL 24. My name is Teresa Gore, and I am with HealthySimulation.com and a past president of INACSL, and excited to be here today to talk to you and talk with my lovely guest, Farrah Bowler, and she's going to be talking with us about the endorsement program from the board of directors side. And then we do have, and she does now have an endorsement. And then we have Beth Hallmark, who was one of the first groups that went through with the endorsement process. So Farrah, we'll start with you. Can you kind of tell us what the endorsement program is and why did INACSL do this?
Super, great. Thanks for the question, Teresa. Thanks for having us today. The endorsement program really was started out of the idea of high quality simulation. And while a lot of different programs could meet requirements for accreditation or for other type of regulatory agencies, some smaller programs and even some of the large ones wanted to validate the work that was being done in their organizations. And that is by delivering high quality simulation. And we wanted a way to be able for these programs to be able to demonstrate that and have it validated and vetted through this endorsement program.
So which one of the standards of best practice are you using for this endorsement?
Yeah, so great question. Out of all of the healthcare simulation standards, all are important. They all have some piece of the overall picture. However, the four that we pulled out for the cornerstones, or the ones that were the cornerstones to the endorsement program, are facilitation, pre-briefing, debriefing, and professional integrity. And so those are the four that are considered the cornerstones and the four that are reviewed and looked at for an endorsement application.
So Beth, you've gone through the process. You were one of the first ones that went through this process. Can you tell us why you decided to go for an endorsement and a little bit about that process, please?
Sure, thanks, Teresa. So we were an accredited center prior to this, but we really wanted to look more deeply at our faculty development, at our professional integrity, and those cornerstones. And we felt like this offered us a deeper dive into that information. And as we were going through it, it really helped us become more organized and look at ways to document what we were doing in terms of faculty development, in terms of developing simulations that met those four cornerstones.
So, and I think you had a wonderful example of like mapping it over multiple courses for a semester and gave some great examples and synopsis of that. So it was a pleasure reading that one. So
thank you.
Farrah, you've now gone through the process, and so will you tell us a little bit about your process of going through it?
Sure. Yeah, so we just went through, I was part of the initial design of the program endorsement, but my own program didn't get endorsed until this past spring. So we'll be getting award this at this conference, which we're excited about. We went through, did the four cornerstones. The one that stuck out the most to me was professional integrity, because that's a little bit one that is hard to quantify sometimes. And so that one was really excellent to take a deep dive into our faculty development, as Dr. Hallmark said. And so with that, we looked at not only our faculty development and what things they have done, we looked at the diversity, equity, and inclusion part of our program within our equipment, also within our training, our scenarios, and so that was a really important factor. And so we had all of that into our professional integrity to build out this application. And it was highlighted by the reviewers that was a really key part of our application.
So, yeah, go ahead.
So Teresa, this is off subject just a little bit, but I know that some states are actually looking now through their boards of nursing at having some way to quantify this. And one thing is, if you're doing 2-to-1 simulation, then it's being recommended that you are an endorsed program. And so right now, our board of nursing in our state it says you need to make sure you're meeting the standards of healthcare simulation of best practice, but there's really no way to measure that. So endorsement helps do that, and that's one of the things that several states in the United States are looking at right now. Ours being one of them, we're discussing that, but I know Washington State and I think maybe Virginia and Florida, or New York have actually implemented some of that. So it's something to really think about as you're thinking about how you're going to do sim. If you're going to do 2-to-1, that endorsement really helps show that you're doing high quality sim, like Farrah said in the beginning.
Well, this gets back to the NCSB and simulation guidelines
Yes.
that went back to these standards way back and said that we have to do quality simulation to get the outcomes. I mean, that's something we know. And so we unfortunately do still have some simulation that is occurring that's causing more harm than it is the benefit. And so those are the things that I think that the endorsement program is trying to stop. And so, I think that that is a very valid point that, as we go more into that competency-based nursing education, we're going to have to demonstrate that in simulation. So I think that showing that you're endorsed is a big thing, that you need to do that. I know when I was reviewing and was on the committee, that we had an issue was with the DEI component, the diversity, equity, and inclusivity, because we can say we do it, but how are you demonstrating it? So when you said when you just said the reviewers commented on that, can you please give everybody listening and are going to watch this some examples of how you specifically integrated that?
Yep, great. Good question. So we at our university had taken on DEI as being really an important initiative for this year, just within our nursing program in general, which led into our simulation. And we did a large audit of our DEI and representation throughout our program in simulation. So we looked at our mannequins, the skin tone of our mannequins. We also looked at all of our task trainers and skin tones of our task trainers. We looked at our scenarios for gender, for age, for skin tones also that we're using there. So we did a large audit, and they always, it's been said, you don't know what you have until you point it out and you're aware of it. And that's what this audit was about, was really just that awareness and what's our plan going forward. So that was one thing that we included in to show that we were addressing that and aware and moving forward with it. We also highlighted our work in DEI and training that our faculty had gone through, specifically around diversity, equity, and inclusion, and we highlighted that throughout our application. And then we talked about also our scenarios, what type of diversity do we have in our scenarios, what does our scenarios look like, and what kind of training are we doing for our writing scenarios, what kind of training are we doing for our faculty to be able to address those issues.
So thank you. I think that that is so important because we have to look at the entirety of a program. And, Beth, you've been endorsed for longer. So what was the benefit that it did bring for your organization?
So the benefit that it brought to us has helped me go to administration and say, we're an endorsed program, and these are important steps that we need to follow in terms of our faculty development, in terms of DEI, because that was one area, too, that we were weak in. And so we've been able to look at those things and take to administration and get some more support, because when you're endorsed, you say, we're an endorsed program, we really need to be able to stay up to these standards. And so that's been, I think, the biggest benefit for us is it's helped me as an administrator be able to go to an administrator that doesn't understand maybe what we do or why we do it.
You mean there's somebody that doesn't know what SIM is?
I know, it's amazing.
Okay. Because that's the thing, I think a lot of us, people don't know what they don't know.
Right,
and,
exactly.
And I think that when you take the healthcare simulation standards and put it to the endorsement program and you do that needs assessment, a gap analysis, and then march everything through, I think that that really does help. So have you seen a benefit, or what is your expected benefit?
Yeah. I don't know so much of I guess it is a benefit. I'm really proud. It is a proud point. I have it on my signature line now. I've got the emblem. We're going to get a plaque. There was social media for our school, and we've known that we've been working hard in simulation and that we've been working at this level. It's really great to be recognized not only by INACSL but by our community and our organization, and to show other faculty too of the work we're doing. So it's a pride point.
So how does somebody go about it? How often can someone put in for an endorsement, and kind of that process?
So there's 2 cycles a year. One starts the submission is in March, and the other is an August time frame. Typically, I think it opens up in August, but I think the submissions are in October. But it can open in August, and so it's twice a year for that submission. Usually, it starts off on our webpage there, INACSL.org. There is a webinar that can be used just to kind of get yourself ready and listen to that past. Usually, they also hold some kind of webinar to to just prepare people for it. There's documents on the website also, and then there's a timeline. The application opens with a letter of intent, so you submit the letter to intent to submit. It has a small fee with that, and then there's a certain time frame for the complete application, and then there's also a time frame for when you'll hear results of that review, and the results also give some feedback. I know with ours, they highlighted 2 areas that we did really well, and they gave us 3 we need to work on. So there was really nice feedback and things we could use.
So with this, for people outside the U.S. and some of the other countries, is there a way that pricing changes for them? Like, is there a lower cost? Yes. Yeah. I think that I saw on the website where it said that if you're in a B, C, D country, that some of the fees are lessened so that it is equitable for people outside the United States to be able to do this.
I know that our membership has a tiered, I wasn't sure about endorsement,
It
so
does.
great, super.
Yeah.
And I think also in terms of months or spring and fall, they're actually going to be more specific on it. It used to be spring and fall or something.
And now it's March
and October.
Yeah.
Right. So they made if you've looked at it lately, we're making a change about that too. So I
Yep.
think that's important.
And we do have international organizations that are endorsed.
Yes.
We have several. Yep.
Yeah.
So, out of Saudi Arabia, they
Yeah.
were endorsed.
We've had several countries. So the other thing is as you're looking at this, do you do site visit, or this is all submissions of work and things like that, and do you have to have videos?
Yep, great question. So there's not a site visit. So that is a difference of some other, regulatory or other type of program. So there's not a site visit. Everything that you submit are exemplars that demonstrate the way that you're meeting that expectation for the endorsement. So it could be videos, it could be policies, it could be scripts and other documents that you have. It's the way that you can have the whole surrounding all the different elements for your exemplar for that particular area.
Yeah, and excuse me, I would just say it also helps you become more organized in how you store your records. So if you go in and look at the endorsement packet or the endorsement criteria, it can help you go on and start putting things in that way so that when it's time, you can pull it together much easier.
And then I'm going to end this with a quote that I always heard Penny Watts say. She loves saying it. It is the gestalt of the entire application. It's not one specific thing, is that the reviewers do look at it. How many people, and we'll end with this, how many people review an application, or is this just one person looking at it?
No, that's a great question too. So each packet gets at least 2 reviewers that are reviewed by 2 separate entities. They come together to come to consensus around that review, and then it comes back to a larger committee for that report out and to see if there's any other additions to it.
Do you have some inter-rater reliability training that they go through?
We sure do, Dr. Gore, which you helped establish. So there is inter-rater reliability. Any new reviewers that are brought onto the group go through a case together first that has that has already had an outcome to it as a previous case, and so there is training beforehand to establish that inter-rater reliability. And if there's ever any discrepancy around a really far out discrepancy, it's brought to a third reviewer for that.
So I think that it really shows the amount of work that this program has gone through in 2.5 years, 3 years. I think that it really does show the dedication of INACSL to meeting this need for the simulation community.
Also, do you want to talk real quick about the Cornerstone courses? You want to tell about that?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
And to go along with this, if you have questions about either you're planning on going for endorsement, if it's something you're looking forward to in the future and you think that your organization might need some development in any one area, we do have the Cornerstones modules. So there are training modules. They can be taken individually, and they're self-paced. There is some synchronous work at the end. For the most part, they're self-paced, and so you can get your team ready, go ahead and plan out taking those, and you can be planning your endorsement application along the way as you're developing your faculty for it.
All right, so thank you everyone for attending this session on the INACSL endorsement program. Once again, Teresa Gore with Healthy Sim. Thank you and have a great day.